Hi guys, it's Rachel from Desert Blossom Crafts. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to crochet the Alpine scarf. This is a scarf pattern for men. It uses the Alpine stitch, and as you can see, it has stripes placed throughout the scarf. In this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make the scarf, and I'll show you how to change colors in the Alpine stitch to get this nice stripe, and even some cool tricks so that you don't have to weave in a million ends while doing these stripes. So keep watching for the tutorial, and I'm excited to show you how to make this scarf. The materials you're going to need for this scarf is worsted weight yarn. I am using Lion Brand Heartland, which is a weight 4 medium weight. You can really use any weight 4, but I do really love the way Heartland works up. These two colors are Sequoia and Kings Canyon. And then I'm using an I or 5.5mm crochet hook. And that's all you really need to get started. Now before we jump into crocheting, there's a few things we need to cover. This is a printout of the ad-free PDF version of this pattern. If you would like that, you can find all the links down in the description box. There's a version that's free on the blog, but then this printable version is $3.99 on Etsy or Ravelry. All those links will be down there. But I just wanted to show you a preview. You're getting everything printed out, plus photo tutorials of the color changes and stuff like that. So if you're interested, those links are down there. But before we get started, I wanted to show you a specific portion of this, and that is the gauge. So gauge is not 100% necessary for this scarf because it's not like a fitted garment or anything, but if you want to get your scarf looking as much like mine as possible, you're going to want to do the gauge. All you need to do to get that gauge is make a swatch in the Alpine stitch, which is the stitch this scarf is worked in, and measure the stitches and rows to see if you like that. And what that gauge is going to do is give you 3 length options: regular, long, and extra long. The sample I made is shown in long, but anyway, that's just the gauge you can use if you want to make your scarf as much like mine as possible, but like I said, it's not 100% necessary. So as we get started on the crocheting portion of this, I just want to start with a little disclaimer and kind of a funny story. It's not really funny to me right now, but I had filmed an entire tutorial for this scarf from step 1 all the way till the end, and I accidentally deleted it through a stupid mistake. So what I'm gonna do, instead of remaking the whole thing, since I'm trying to get this pattern out tomorrow from the time I'm making it, what I'm gonna do is direct you to another tutorial I have to show you how to make the Alpine stitch. Because the scarf basically just is worked in the Alpine stitch the entire time. It just has the color change and then some specifics on what starting row number to do. So I will show you everything about this scarf that is unique to the pattern. But if you're unfamiliar with the Alpine stitch, I'm going to direct you to the tutorial in the cards so I don't have to remake the entire thing that I spent a lot of time on. So anyway, check out the Alpine stitch if you don't know, and I'm going to go ahead and take this out and show you all the specifics that have to do with this scarf in particular. So to start this scarf from scratch, I'm going to make a slip knot, and I'm going to make a foundation row of 23 foundation single crochet. If you're unfamiliar with this technique, it's basically a technique where you make the chain row and the single crochet row at the exact same time. So I'm doing one here, but if you're unfamiliar with this, you can check out another tutorial that's listed in the cards. It's just called Foundation Single Crochet. But what I'm going to do is make 23 of these. And if you would like to start with a chain stitch, you're not familiar with this, you can start with 24 chain stitches and then work one row of regular single crochet, and you'll basically get to the same point that I would be at when finishing 23 of these. The point is, though, you need to have an odd number of stitches once you've finished your first row. So if you'd like to adjust the width of this scarf, that's all you need to do, is just use an odd number. For the pattern, it specifically calls for 23 across. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so here is my 23 foundation single crochet. And now here is where you would begin the Alpine stitch. So like I said, I'm not going to do a full tutorial on this. You can click over to my other tutorial and learn how to do this. What I would do now is do a regular double crochet row, a regular single crochet row, and then start the front post double crochet rows that are in the classic Alpine stitch. So if you're unfamiliar with that, just go and click over to the tutorial. It's really straightforward. So mainly what I'm wanting you to get here is how we actually do it in the scarf. So you can see we have these sections of the Alpine stitch in each color. So what you're going to do is once you go over and learn how to do the Alpine stitch, you're going to do 18 rows in the brown. So that is how many rows are in this section, and then there's always going to be 4 rows of green, and that's just what's going to alternate throughout the entire scarf using the Alpine stitch over and over again. So my point with this tutorial is I'm going to show you how to do the color change and also how to carry the yarn up the sides so you don't have a ton of ends to weave in. So that's what we're going to start right now. Alright, so here I have a little sample of Alpine stitch. For time's sake, I went ahead and just did a few rows instead of 18, but again, if you're doing it, make sure you do 18 rows. Unless you want to change the amount of rows in between your stripes, you can feel free to do that as well. Just know that the color change needs to always be done on a single crochet row. So once you're familiar with the Alpine stitch, you'll know that you're basically alternating between front post rows and single crochet rows, and the color change is always going to be on the single crochet row. So here I am on a single crochet row. You can see I have a bunch coming here, and I'm on the last one. This is where the color change is going to take place. So I'm going to insert my hook like I'm about to do my last single crochet, and I'm going to pull up a loop, and now this is where the color change happens. So I'm going to grab my green yarn here, and I'm going to take this end and basically complete the stitch with it. So I'm going to yarn over with the new color, make sure and leave some on the other side because this is what you're going to weave in later. And I'm just going to pull it through to finish the stitch. This is a pretty classic color change. It's not too hard to do, but you're basically completing the last stitch of the row with the new color, so that way the stitch for this row is all brown and the stitch for the next row will be green, and that makes it very seamless. So now what I'm going to do is just continue in the Alpine stitch with the green. So I'm on a front post row, and I basically just keep continuing. Again, if you're unfamiliar with the Alpine stitch, check out that tutorial. But this is the front post row, and I'm just doing a few stitches here so you'll be able to see what it looks like as I continue with the new color. So let me hold this up for you. So you can see it just makes a really neat effect because now the front posts are going over the brown stitches, but it just looks totally seamless. So I'm going to keep going across this row and speed it up, and then I'm going to go across the single crochet row, and I'll meet you back there because there's something important we need to talk about as far as carrying the brown. Okay, so here I am close to the end of my single crochet row. So here's the front post row from the right side and the single crochet row. And I just have 2 single crochet left. So I'm going to do one more, and the main thing we're going to do is with this last one again. So just to clarify a bit, what we're doing here is we want to carry this brown up. We haven't cut off the end from our first section of brown because we're going to carry this up so that we don't have to weave in a ton of brown ends for every single section of the scarf. So what you're going to need to do is carry it up every 2 rows of the contrasting color. So even though we're doing 4 rows total, we want to carry it up halfway through, because if we carried it up after all 4 rows, it would leave this huge loop that could get caught on things, and we don't really want that. But if we do it halfway through, it's not quite as big of a deal. I'm going to start my single crochet by just inserting my hook. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this yarn that's not cut from my brown ball of yarn, and I'm going to catch it in the stitch when I do it. So let me show you. I'm pulling it up, and when I yarn over, I'm going to pull that one through too. So here I've pulled it up, and I'm yarning over with it. And see, now if I turn it over, it's a little tricky to see, but it's this loop right here, and it's caught in this stitch so that it's carried up. So let me show you that one more time just to make sure it is nice and clear. So I'm inserting my hook like normal, then I'm reaching and grabbing this, yarning over with it, yarning over with the green and pulling it through. And now we have this loop here, but it's not too big of a loop. So that is the first step in carrying the brown, so we eliminate those ends. Now that we've done that, it's time to just continue in the green for 2 more rows before we carry the brown again and change back to the brown color also. So I'm just going to start again with my front post row. Got my double crochet here, my second double crochet before going into the front post one of the regular double crochet. And I'll just speed this up again as I go through. Just remember you're doing the front post row all the way across and then 1 more single crochet across to the end, and that's where I will meet you back. Okay, so here I'm at the end again. I have just 2 single crochet left to do. I'm gonna go ahead and do 1 of them. And now, what we're doing now is taking this brown that we carried and carrying it up 1 more time. And this time we're not just carrying it though, we're also switching back to the brown so we can do our next large section of brown. So, to do this, you're gonna start out the same way as before, inserting your hook and grabbing this from the back and yarning over with it and pulling through with the green. But now here's where the process is going to change. So before we just completed the stitch, right, and the brown was carried, but we want to switch with the brown too. So now I'm going to take the brown, drop the green, take the brown and pull through with the brown. And now I'm switched over to my brown yarn and I can continue like before. So let me show you that one more time, just to make sure you see. So here's the first loop we carried up with the brown. Now we're making our second one. So I'm just inserting my hook, and here's the one I'm pulling up and yarning over with. Then I'm pulling through with the green, dropping the green, picking up the brown, and pulling through. So I know that's a little complicated, but it's really worth the extra time to figure it out because you won't have any brown yarn to weave in except for the very first one on this end and the very last one when you're done with the scarf. So now I would just turn, continue with the brown as before in the Alpine Stitch. And you can go ahead and cut this green yarn here because there's no way to carry the green through so many things of brown. You technically could, but I wouldn't like the way that looked, so I opted to cut the green and just weave in all the green at the end, but the brown I carried, and that just made for a lot less time and effort. So like I said, you just literally keep repeating this. So here's what it looks like as I start to continue in the Alpine Stitch in the brown. But to make the scarf, you just keep going in the Alpine Stitch and do 18 rows of brown, 4 rows of green. Make sure you remember to carry the colors every 2 rows of the green. When I was making the scarf, I would always forget about that, and then I'd have to go back 2 rows and carry the brown up. So make sure you keep it in your mind you're carrying every 2 rows, and here's what the carries look like. You can kind of see it, but in my mind it's just worth it because it saves time and it's not like a huge loop or anything. So that's really all there is to making this Alpine Stitch scarf. Thank you guys so much for watching this tutorial. I really appreciate it. If you want to see lots more crochet patterns and tutorials like this, make sure to come subscribe to my channel. I'm releasing new videos every Tuesday and Friday in 2021. So I'm pretty excited to grow my YouTube channel, and I would love to see you around more as I continue to publish more videos. If you would like the written pattern for this scarf, don't forget to check out the description box. There's all the links you need. Thanks guys, and have a great day.